Alright, this particular vid, I'm going to touch on not just the Halloween holiday at the end of this month, but this 3-day, or should I say 3-month holiday known as Hallow-Thanks-Xmas. So I'll title this lecture Hallow-Thanks-Xmas, because you have Halloween, so-called Thanksgiving, and Christmas in a 3-month time period that seems to be back to back. And it seems like every year they kind of run together, and you go out to Walmart and they have Halloween masks and decorations right next to Santa Claus and Christmas lights and Christmas trees and little snowmen. So, you know, from my outside perspective, to really open up your third eye, what does this mean? Okay, nowadays you have this big zombie craze, which is pretty much 24/7 all year round. I'm not against that. People get into that stuff. That's cool. I thought that one of those TV shows was a decent series to follow. It comes on AMC once a week. But hey, people do what they do. I just noticed it seems to be a trend. Why it's so-called Halloween, it's nothing but people dressing up like zombies. And in a metaphysical or spiritual sense, people are zombies. The majority of, as some would say, 85%, or the majority of sheep are kind of like these spiritual zombies walking around with their cell phones, caught up in their American Idol and their politics, etc., etc.
That showed kindness to the pilgrims.
So the pilgrims, along with the ghosts and goblins and zombies, took from the
pilgrims.
native Indians, or the tribe of Gad,
saw that the pilgrims needed help.
lost Israelites,
when the pilgrims were hungry,
took their land to have a big feast, pretend to be friends with them, and celebrate the birthday of Jee-Zues. Should I say Jee-Zues, Sky-Zues for Jee, in that image of the beast, as opposed to the true Jesus Christ, or true Yeshua HaMashiach, that was not born physically through the virgin birth in December the 21st. The spiritual birth was to be acknowledged January the 7th. The physical birth took place somewhere between July and the end of September. And this so-called physical birth of so-called Jesus Christ did not take place. But these pilgrims and these goblins and ghosts and zombies and these ghouls love to get together for a 3-month holiday and celebrate the birthday of Jee-Zues. And what is the origin of so-called Christmas? You have the so-called Christmas tree, which really comes from Nimrod and Tammuz, the resurrection through the penis symbol, the so-called tree of life, and the resurrection of Nimrod and Tammuz, which is pagan.
For many of us, our fondest childhood memories revolve around the traditions of Christmas.
The main icon
it is a time that many around the world celebrate as the birth of Jesus Christ, the Savior and Messiah
and say Jesus is the reason for the season, but then they use Santa Claus as the main icon, Santa.
In the northern hemisphere during late December, the days are at their shortest lengths, and the nights are at their longest.
That would come down
For those of the
mesh all
pagan
this pagan
world,
traditions
this has
together.
always been the greatest time of the year to celebrate and practice the works of darkness. The pagan calendar identifies this period as the Winter Solstice.
Not to be an extremist, not to disregard celebrating Christmas or
midwinter pagan celebrations of Scandinavia's Norsemen, where today's Christmas traditions began.
I'm not necessarily against
as a means of honoring the pagan sex and fertility god Yule, a 12-day celebration during the month of December was inaugurated.
Well, some say, Brother John, you're a Scrooge. And I just laugh it off, like, okay, if you want me to be a Scrooge, or if you think I'm a Scrooge, then that's fine. Look, I don't hate what people do. As a matter of fact, I tolerate Christmas. Not so much celebrate it into my heart or really get into it, but I tolerate it because I do spend time with my family, and I will exchange gifts because my household family will give me gifts. So out of love for them, I give them a couple gifts in exchange, and I'll say Merry Christmas, and it's all good. So I'm not saying be an extremist, so you have to be like people of other religions or other types of Christians. Those who are Christians, who call themselves Jehovah's Witnesses, much love to them. I understand what they do, but I'm not saying that everyone has to be like that. I'm just saying,
TV show. You guys have got
do your homework.
With America's favorite old fart.
Now, going back to this present time of so-called Halloween, in the very beginning of what I call Hallow-Thanks-Xmas, because we're moving on past the high holy days of the Hebrew calendar, the Hebrew cycle, and then going on to the this pagan world system of these traditions and so-called holidays in the gentile world. And I'm not against that. I'm not being an extremist. I told a brother of mine 2 weeks ago, hey, I might even go out to a costume party this year. Who knows? I haven't dressed up and done that in the past 5 or 6 years, but you know, I understand, because it is what it is. It's fun to do something different. I get that. But we think it's something we're supposed to do with our kids, and we pass down traditions like dress up in costumes and trick or treat. And it's funny is a few years back, I would say several years back, I was working at the mall next to this Muslim brother. Muslim brother named Jamil, who went to high school with me, but I think he was a couple years behind me. But he was joking about having to dress up because it happened to be so-called Halloween that day at the mall. And he was working at his kiosk, and I was working at my business, and he said, hey, aren't you going to dress up tonight? Isn't that something you're supposed to do? And he kind of knew I was on that wavelength, you know, and I just kind of laughed it off. It was like our little inside joke, you know. I'm not against people doing what they do. I'm just saying, do your homework, do some research based off these pagan traditions of where these so-called holidays came from. Of course, this is a classic movie, and a classic scene of Santa Claus.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Merry Christmas. Ho, 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 ho.
Stay in the light.
All right.
Stay in the illumination. Now,
so I suggest conscious brothers and sisters check out the Rastafari Brethren and Ethiopian World Net, his older YouTube channel from LOJ Society.
Seeks to control.
It's titled Babylon Exposed,
through the
how Satan
holidays,
controls humanity through false holidays.
Excuse me. How exactly is this done? What is the magic, or we can say actually witchcraft and sorcery, behind Satan seeking to control our lives through his paganistic and heathen and false holidays or hoe-lie days? Well, first, what's in the name? So what's this holiday?